If you'll stand at this time for the pledge. Joe, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Color roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Here.
Joe Crowell,
Here.
Jerry Sartain,
Here.
Joe Machado,
Here.
Michael Rather,
Here.
Jared Barrett,
Here.
Thane Cantrell.
Present.
We do have a quorum, and all voting members are present.
All
sir.
regular members are present, will be voting. You do not have any minutes that were sent out to you. We'll get those out to you next month. Staff did not have time to get them out, so we will deal with that next month. Do we have anything else in old business that needs to come up? All right. We're ready for our first item of business. Let me just kind of explain how we'll go with this for those of you who have been here are here for the first time. We'll have a presentation from our staff. Then we'll ask those who have a request before us to come to the podium and give any additional information that you might have. And after that, we'll have a public hearing on each one of these items and give those of you here who need to speak on it a chance to share information with the board. We ask that you keep your comments within 3 minutes if at all possible. First item is a request by Randall Wilson. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2013-8 is a variance request to reduce the side yard setback for an accessory structure to 2 feet. This property is located in a commercial neighborhood zone. It's located at 3504 Woodbury Highway, and the applicant's name is Randall Wilson. The property is less than a third of an acre, and it's an older property. It has a commercial structure on it. It is zoned commercial, as well as the applicant's residence and several detached accessory structures. And the structure in the rear corner of the property was extended to provide covered parking for a recreational vehicle that had been parked on the site. And the existing structure that he added to was already non-conforming in regards to the side yard setback for accessory structures, and therefore the enlargement required him to obtain a variance relief for the construction of this pole barn, which was done without a permit, and the applicant was notified by a building inspector that he needed to get a permit, and that is why he's coming before the Board of Zoning Appeals. And so this is the structure in question, and you can see he already is using it for the recreational vehicle. And photos of the site and the surrounding areas. We posted a sign on the property. We've received no phone calls regarding this case. The request does not meet the criteria or all of the criteria for variance approval. And this is the site plan. You can see the existing structures are royal blue, and this is the location of the addition. And you can see this is the RV that was parked along the roadway that is now in the covered pole barn. And that concludes our presentation.
We have anyone here representing this request. If you'll come around, please, to the podium. Yes, ma'am. If you'll give us your name and any additional information you want to share with the board.
My name is Teresa Watson. Randall Wilson is my husband, and we own this property here. That's at 3504 Woodbury Highway. I guess actually we were a little uncertain that a permit was going to be required to add the carport onto the front of the existing building. Our little garage building has been there since the 40s. You can kind of tell from the property that front commercial building was actually an old country store, had gas pumps out in the front. And the little garage that's in the back is just a little structure that actually was a dirt floor. And we talked about actually just tearing down the whole garage and starting over. And my husband came up and talked to the people about the permits and with the restrictions of, we just don't have much space back there. So we made a decision not to tear down that garage. We resided that garage, put a standing seam metal roof on it, and came back later and added the carport. And I guess we just didn't realize at the time that adding that front carport was going to be a permit. So when my husband was working on it, we had, I guess, an inspector came by and talked to him about it. And when he came up to get the permit, and the inspector even said that he thought we might need a variance, that it was too close. And so my husband came up to get the permit, and when he made application for the permit and inquired about the variance, they initially told us we didn't need a variance because it was well off of the property line. So over a course of about 2 or 3 days, and they had the staff reinvestigate, they did say, yes, we needed a variance. So we paid the fee for the variance and came back. The thing that's a little confusing to us is at the time that the building to the right that's on Bud Mitchell's tire property was constructed, it's a 2-bay fire department building that houses 2 fire trucks for the Kittrell Fire Department. When that building was constructed, we actually were told when they moved the house out that the house they took out was on our property, which would make our garage well 8 feet off the property line. So I guess just in all confusion, we just never even realized that we were adding on to a non-conforming structure. And I've got some pictures of where we have been shown where the property lines are. We did not go out and do an official survey because thought, well, we would just wait and see what happened. Bud Mitchell is the property owner of the commercial property on that side. He has a residence in the front. Our neighbors on both sides, talked to all of them, and they have, no one's here that's opposing it, but they have given us letters saying that they don't oppose it. So,
Have any questions from the board? Keith?
I just kind of maybe have one for staff. With the carport that they added on from an existing building, they stayed within those parameters of that. In other words, they didn't go outside of wide, or so in other words, they just came off of what was already there. And she said that structure has been there since the 40s, correct?
Yes, but when
Okay.
you enlarge an existing nonconformity, and may I address, we gave the applicant the option to have a survey completed to demonstrate that it was compliant. By using our GIS system and the aerials, we try to determine the actual location and measure the distance. But as you can see, year after year, that's not exact. And if you look at the photos that we provided the applicant, because we tried to create a situation where he wouldn't have to come before you, but the way multiple years indicated the structure itself was well into the required side yard.
So in other words, really they're just asking for, normally it would have to be 5 foot, and the structure's within what?
2.
So they're really requesting about a 3-foot variance?
Yes, a 3-foot
Okay.
relief. So.
All right, thank you.
Joe?
This is for Danielle. Is there any cause against this?
No, sir.
Bud's Tires are not against it?
no,
Bud
we have a
Mitchell's?
letter from Bud saying that he
Thank you.
is in favor.
Gary, did you have?
I'm just going to ask, you live at this property?
I do. We do.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Dane Cantrell?
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
The next item we have is a request by Wendy S. Hall, this is something to do with a produce stand. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2013-9 is a request for a temporary special exception approval for a produce stand located in a commercial neighborhood zone. And the applicant's name is Rwanda Hall. This is located at 6044 Lebanon Pike, and it's a 1.6 acre parcel that's developed as a gas station and convenience store. And since 2006, there has been a produce stand located on this site, and we've never received any complaints on it. Because of the new zoning ordinance regulations, the provisions for produce stands or agricultural stands change slightly, and it requires her, which she was administratively approved the previous year, she now has to come before the board for a temporary special exception permit. So I'll show you photos of the site. You're probably familiar with the site from all the fireworks applications we process. She's going to use existing parking, the same parking that serves the convenience store. And surrounding area includes a school, some commercial uses, a strip center, and residential uses. And this is the location of the produce stand, the site itself, and the existing structures. And it meets the criteria for special exception approval with the conditions.
Sit down. Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. If you'll give us your name and any additional information you want to share.
Wanda Hall. I'd just like to say, I've had it out there for 6 years, and I've tried to do everything, from the signs and everything. I've tried to do what y'all have asked me to do. That's all I've
Questions? Like to sell those good old veggies, right?
Oh, I love my little produce stand.
Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to be approved.
Have a motion to be approved. Have a second. Joe Machado. Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Dane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Okay, it is approved. The next item we have is a request by David Coleman. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2013-10 is a request for special exception approval for an accessory dwelling unit that does not meet the design standards for ADUs for a property located in a residential medium zone. It's a 5-acre parcel located at 9294 Franklin Road, and it's surrounded by residential properties as well as commercial zone properties, and the site itself is reliant on an easement through one of those commercially zoned properties that is also owned by the applicant. And it's the applicant's desire to construct a principal dwelling on the rear of the property. There's an existing double wide that has been located on the property for several years, and he would like to continue to have the double wide on the property. And because of it being a double wide mobile home and the house that he is constructing is site built, the design standards are not being met, so the applicant is having to come before you to obtain approval for the accessory dwelling unit. That being said, all of the other conditions for accessory dwelling units have been demonstrated and met by the application. We've not received any phone calls regarding the request. These are photos of the surrounding area. We've posted a sign on the property and the existing auto business, and there is a pool business that is an adjoining property, residences, and as you can see, this is the double wide located on the property. It will not match the built house that will be located behind the tree line and slightly elevated. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, do we have anyone here representing this request? If you come around, please. If you'll give us your name and any additional information.
Sure. My name is David Coleman. I just simply want to build a slightly larger house on the back side of the property, and just want to keep the existing mobile home. It's nice to have for family and folks that come in and just stay there. May want to put my parents in there at some point as they get older, so I'd rather not move the mobile home if necessary. So I'm just asking for approval to build the house in the back with the mobile home there.
Any questions? Joe?
What plans, you want this as a rental?
No, it's not a rental.
I mean, you going to rent this mobile
No, I'm
home?
not ever going to rent it.
You just want it to stay there for a storage
I'll
building?
stay there. Right now, currently, family comes, stays there. It's not worth renting out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. If we have a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Got a second. Call the roll, please.
Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Okay, it is approved. The next item we have is a request by Richard Reeves, who's requesting a change in the borough pit, which would move it further away from the residential area and behind a tree line. And what do you have on that, please?
Application 2013-11 is a request to amend a temporary conditional use permit allowing a borough pit with relief from the area requirements for borough pits in the residential medium density zone. The property is located in the vicinity of 950 Jefferson Pike. It's a 215-acre parcel, and it's located in Commissioner Jack Black's district. The property is vacant, but in September of 2012, in application 2012-44, the Board of Zoning Appeals approved the excavation of several areas from the property and subject to conditions that are laid out in your staff report. The activities that are involved in affecting this property. However, since that application, and I'm just going to forward through the pictures really quickly and then go over the changes that you will see. We posted a sign on the site. These are the surrounding areas. We actually posted 3 signs like we did in the original application. We've not received any phone calls regarding this request. I believe that the applicant has had a meeting with the neighbors to inform them of the changes that are being made, and I'm just forwarding so we can get to a graphic we can describe what he's proposing. And this is the Riverwalk community, and this is the area that is affected by the proposed request here. And they're just seeking to modify, they're seeking to include, this was a triangular piece in the original application, and he has acquired that piece and would like to incorporate it into the overall area for the borough pit activities. And as you see, this is the area that we approved, or the board approved in September. This area of borrowing activities will disappear, and the triangular shaped property is incorporated, and this borough pit area has increased. And it's a slight increase in the percentages, but it will reduce the visibility from this angle to the burrowing activities behind this, and it will be located behind the tree line. That will help the view of some of the residents. And that's the overall area. And I believe that the percentages that were listed in the staff report reflected what was in the actual application, but after a survey was completed, the acreages were slightly reduced. And so the applicant has submitted this letter that I passed out to you in the pre-meeting explaining the changes. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Ted Goodman of the law firm of Murphy & Murphy, and we represent the property owners Richard Reeves and Joan Reeves in this application. I've got a little presentation. If we can go to the next slide, please. The applicants are Richard and his wife Joan Reeves. As you may remember, this property is 215.66 acres directly adjacent to the BFI property on East Jefferson Pike. And as was already stated, we previously received a special use permit to conduct borrow pit activities from you all on September 12th of 2012, and that was to provide necessary clay to the landfill. It's important to remember this does not extend the life of the landfill in any way. They're going to be getting the clay from somewhere. It does not expand the life of the landfill or expand the area of the landfill. They're going to get the clay from somewhere. What this does do is this allows them to get that clay from the directly adjoining property without having to go onto the fence, onto the roads. They can just go directly across the fence and take this clay without having to take tens of thousands of trucks on the road. Again, it's not a landfill or BFI project. All excavation work is going to be performed by contractors working for, paid by, and reporting to Richard Reeves, who is a current and lifelong Rutherford County resident. The reason for the amendment is that on December 22nd, Mr. Reeves purchased the 10 acres that adjoined his property and the BFI property. This 10 acres created sort of a notch into his property, as you saw from the graphic earlier. By eliminating that notch, he has greatly increased his flexibility of the property. It's allowed him to lay out his borrow pit activities in such a way that it will decrease the impact this project is going to have on the Riverwalk subdivision. And the proposal is to eliminate the 4.3 acre borrow pit directly to the south of the Riverwalk subdivision and move that to the notch property behind a tree line. And what we're wanting to do is move the 4.3 acre borrow pit behind the tree line, where there will be an 8.7 acre borrow pit on the notch property screened by the tree line, and then immediately to the east of the notch property there was a 4.6 acre borrow pit. We're requesting to increase that to 5.5 acres. Now, where that extra acreage comes from, all borrow pits are required to be set back at least 50 feet from all non-residential property lines. So we had to be set back at least 50 feet from the notch property. And now that Mr. Reeves owns the notch property, there's no setback requirement from that, and he's requesting to expand into what was formerly required to be a setback. And again, the proposed 5.5 acre borrow pit is also screened behind a wooded area. This is the map that was outlined, that was approved before. That's an overview of it. And if you can go to the next one, which is zoom in, please. Again, this is kind of an overview of what we're wanting to do here. This is the 4.3 acre borrow pit that we're proposing to eliminate. The area highlighted in green is what was the notch property that's been purchased. And then this is the 4.6 acre borrow pit that we're proposing to increase to 5.5. Go to the next slide, please. This is the layout. Sorry that it's oriented differently. I had to fit it onto the screen there. This is the layout now that we're proposing for the borrow pits. Just give you your bearings here. This is the Riverwalk subdivision. This is where the 4.3 acre borrow pit has been eliminated. This is the former notch property that would now have the 8.7 acre borrow pit. And this is the former 4.6 acre borrow pit that we've proposed to increase to 5.5. Can't really read it here, but it says woods there. That's a wooded area. And then this is the tree line that used to be the fence line for the property. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. We think this benefits the neighbors in a lot of ways. One of the main ways is it just adds more distance. There's a much greater buffer of distance from the neighbors because we're moving it further away from them. It also screens the clay removal activities. There's a tree-lined fence row, the old property line with the notch property. We're going to leave that alone. We're not going to touch that because that tree line provides a visual screen, a physical barrier, as well as a psychological barrier to benefit the neighbors. Next slide, please. In addition, the topography of the area is rolling. It's such that from the new site, you can't really see much more than the roofs of the houses of the Riverwalk subdivision. I've got a picture of that in just a minute. So it's going to be tucked down into the landscape, making it much less visible from Riverwalk, and thus further decreasing the impact this will have on Riverwalk. Next slide. So again, by moving it a much greater distance away, having the tree line fence row, which is a physical and a visual barrier, the topography are all going to combine to create a psychological barrier, and just won't be thinking about it as much, and it will decrease the impact this will have on the neighbors and benefit the community as a whole. Next slide. This is a picture. Now this is standing at Riverwalk Drive looking toward the property. This is the 4.3 acre borrow pit that we're proposing to eliminate that was already approved. This is the tree-lined fence row, and then behind that is the Notch property where we're asking to put the 8.7 acre borrow pit. Next slide, please. This is standing at the tree line of the Notch property, looking back at the Riverwalk subdivision. As you can see, you can't really see much more than the roofs of the houses there. So we're kind of tucked down into the landscape. Next slide, please. The current approval was to remove clay from 65.2 acres, or 31.7% of a total 205.7 acres. The proposed amendment is to remove clay from 70.4 acres, which is 32.64% of a total 215.66 acres. So we're asking for a variance for that purpose. Next slide, please. Of course, this is not going to have, this is going to become a part of the original proposal for all purposes. There's not going to be any effect on the time periods that were originally allowed, which was a 6-month time period with a 3-month administrative extension being possible. So this is not extending the amount of time these projects will be going on. Mr. Reeves has made a number of commitments and promises to this board and to his neighbors and to the county and the community as a whole. He reaffirms and recommits to those. They're all in writing and promises that are filed with the Planning Commission, and he's going to continue to honor those and follow those. And of course, everything he does will be in compliance with all state, federal, and local laws, ordinances, and regulations. I wanted to go over some of those commitments that we've made. One of the big ones is there's not going to be excavation from anything more than 5 acres at a time. So you're not going to look out there and see one large excavation. There'll be excavation from a 5-acre pit at a time. And then what we're going to do is, prior to starting excavation, Mr. Reeves is going to remove the topsoil, store it on site, and then restore it, seed it, and return the property to its current condition before he moves on to the next borrow pit. Next slide, please. There's not going to be any blasting at all conducted during the project. And also all the trucks involved in this project, dump trucks, service trucks, any other deliveries or anything is going to be prohibited from entering through the Riverwalk subdivision. Next slide, please. Another big one is the existing trees will be preserved. We're not going to disturb any of the existing trees. Our goal here is that 6 months after the project is over with, the property is going to appear undisturbed. Next slide, please. And of course, the BZA retains oversight of this. We have to come back. The permitting period is 6 months with a possible 3-month administrative extension. Then we have to come back to you all for another approval. So that allows the BZA to police this process and make sure that we're doing what we should and that we're fulfilling all of our commitments and obligations. Thank you.
Have any questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call a roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
It is approved. The next item we have is a request by James Jacobs II, and this is also concerning a borough pit. What do you have on that?
Okay, thank you. Application 2013-12 is a request for a temporary special exception approval, allowing a burrow pit with relief from the setback and area requirements for burrow pits in the residential medium zone. The property is located off John Bragg Highway and Woodcraft Road. It's a 22-acre parcel, and this is familiar to you. You have seen it twice before, and they are simply asking to renew the existing or renew the permit with the variance relief and area requirements, setback relief for the burrowing activities or removal of rock from this site. As you can see in the staff report, they meet all of the conditions and they have demonstrated being compliant with the previous permits. However, we did receive a couple phone calls, some concerns with the blasting activities that have been taking place out in this area. And that was a result of sending the letters out regarding the application. So this is the site itself, an aerial, and it's been affected a little more than what you see here because this was early in 2012. And this is the site. We posted a sign on the property, John Bragg looking towards Murfreesboro. And across the site is another burrow pit location. And this is the original plan. It shows the reduction in the setbacks. It shows the applicant's long-range plan, and it was very clear in the initial application that this would be an application or request that you would see multiple times because of the length of time it would take to achieve the plan. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? Who come around, please? What'd you say?
I'm James Jacobs. I'm with the pit. We're just asking for a permit to finish what we've already started to do. No changes at all, no, sir.
Daniel, this is just an extension or of what they've already done.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just got one other question. How much longer do y'all think y'all be out there, Mr. Jacobs? A while.
It just a lot depends on what goes on as far as,
Right.
we're just taking rock out as we can use it
Right.
somewhere else.
And this is just a borrow pit. This is just rock we're being removed here, isn't it?
Right,
No
like
dirt, just rock.
Part of it, we've already started putting dirt back in it and dressing our slopes and getting it ready for future
Okay.
use.
I'm saying this has just been a borrow pit for rock removal, not dirt.
Right, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
okay.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone that'd like to speak on it. If you'll come forward, please. If you'll give us your name and any information, just to our secretary there.
My name is Paulette Rogers. I have land on the other side of where they are blasting. They're blasting. Okay, so you can hear me? Okay, I appreciate it. No, I have a nursery. We have plants, shrubs, flea market on the property. The borrow pit is right behind us, and it's going to be around the back of us the way it's looking right now. And there's been nothing done. Like he says, they're just taking out what rock they want. They're coming down the highway, which makes it dangerous with the dump trucks continuously coming.
Any questions?
Ms. Rogers, when you say there's nothing being done, I don't understand what your question is or what your statement means.
Nothing being done about before the meeting, they swept off the rock, not the rock, the dirt and everything that was left on the roads. They've cleaned that up I'd say just because of the meeting. I don't know, because it's never been done much.
So you're saying as far as some mud or something coming out onto the roadway, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the mudways, gravel will come out on it, rock will come out on it.
Okay. Well, I guess our question for staff is, I know this John Bragg Highway, I don't know if we have any control over making sure that they keep the roadway clean. Would that be something the state regulates, Danielle, or what about that, Mr. Orton?
That's correct. The state does monitor the highway. Now, when we get complaints about mud on the highway, and we've been out a time or two on this, we go out and talk to them and tell them, you need to clean up. But as far as enforcing that is the state highway, so it's kind of out of our jurisdiction.
Let me ask one other question. I know they've been out there for a pretty good while doing this, but they've been. We really hadn't had any complaints on them, though, have we?
This is the first time I've had a permit where they were looking for a permit to use it.
Yeah. No, I'm just asking Mr. Corbett, our engineer, county engineer. I mean, they've been out there for quite some time doing this. I mean, we ain't had any complaints about anything, have we?
No, we have had a couple complaints on blasting, shaking the house and stuff. We've gone out and looked. The challenge you have, if everybody's on the same slab of rock, even if you're a mile and a half away, and they blast that shaking will go through that rock and it'll vibrate whatever's on top of it. The state has met with them out there. They've done some inspections on their operation. As far as we know, they've passed all those inspections.
And just to clarify something and maybe educate some folks that don't know, when they go out there and do the blasting, that's regulated by the state, but the folks that do the blasting, state requires them to put out seismographic type monitoring stuff to make sure, if there's any problems or how far something's going, where if there was some damage to someone's home or whatever.
There will be damage as long as they're going through this.
That's correct. The machines are put out. We've checked. The blasting they've done, the charges they're putting down are smaller than they are allowed to put down. So, again, all I can tell you is that they're going to shake some of the things when they do it. So they are within the guidelines of the state. If they wouldn't be, then they would not allow them to keep blasting, correct? That's correct.
Thank you.
Bottom line is you're opposed to it. Is that anything going on? Okay. Thank you very much. You may be seated.
I was standing on my porch one day and they backed up 3 dump trucks down at Double Springs Road. And when they backed those dump trucks up, they blasted and it shook my whole barn.
Okay.
They're doing damage.
Okay. Now, you understand we don't have a lot to do with the blasting.
I understand.
And that's your big problem.
I understand.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Please come around. It's okay. Hopefully it's not the blasting.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. How are you? Go
ahead.
My name is Sybil Victory. This is not the first time I've been to appear here against this same thing. I own property at 3510 Womack Lane, which is right off of Double Springs, right off of Woodcraft. The first time I appeared several years ago, it was when Farrah Brothers had originally asked to blast up in that area. Y'all may remember me. I got a little angry then, and I'm a little older now. And everything didn't go on my behalf, of course, I guess, as you see that. But my problem is I was told when the blasting was done up there that it upset 3 natural springs. My problem is I am being flooded every time it rains. The 3 natural springs have been upset. At one of the hearings that I attended, y'all may remember, the gentleman, engineer, said that the water was going to be rerouted to John Bragg, to run down John Bragg instead of coming down the hill. If you know where Womack Lane is, you know that the water runs down that hill. Well, when they upset those springs, I was done for. My property has been devalued. I have a water leak at my home I absolutely cannot find, and I don't know if it's from the blasting or not. I haven't, the water company itself, I have proof that I have had the water company out there twice in the last month, because I can't get enough water out of my meter to try to find where I have a water leak that's costing me $100 a month more on my water bill. I'm in a situation where I need a committee, a person, someone that really cares about that neighborhood to come out there and go from the top of where this problem is down through our area. I was told, and this you need to know, because you need to look at it, guys, okay? I was told at one point from a gentleman that was with y'all some time ago, I don't know if he still is or not, that part of my flooding extends from, there's a little creek that everything runs into down there, and that there was a blockage down there at the creek. Well, now, if that's the case, I completely understand that that might be part of why I'm not draining the way I should be. But that still doesn't stop the fact that, and forgive me, Farrah Brothers, that Farrah Brothers upset those 3 natural springs. And it is turning loose all of that water. The house next door to me, gentlemen, I put my hand on my Bible, sir. When it rains and it floods, they can't flush their toilet because the water backs up to their front porch. Me, I'm a trailer. And when y'all set off dynamite over there, okay, I rock and roll in my house, okay? And I don't have the stereo on. I mean, seriously, guys. It is a bad situation out there. And before y'all approve anything else, please consider investigating this and helping the people in our area. I understand that progress is progress, but destruction is destruction. And what you're doing is what is happening right now to all of us out there is, I'm an older lady. I have to leave that to my kids one day. And I'd like it to be worth something when I do. And, you know, I just need help with this flooding, and the flooding is coming from that area. As long as the blasting continues, as long as this stuff continues, my problem is never going to stop. It's never going to stop. And I've tried, I kept giving them time and giving them time to reroute the water. But, you know, all I'm here for is not to fuss. It's simply to make a request that y'all think how y'all would feel if it was your house or your grandmother's house, and how you would feel when you come in and you had to go across 6 inches of water going across your driveway because you are continually flooding. You know, when it rained Sunday night, I had 6 inches of water running across my driveway all day. That's how bad it is. So please, gentlemen and ladies, be kind. Pay attention to me this time. I'm a little under the weather, and I'm not in good health, but listen to me, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Joe?
I have a question for Dale.
Yeah, just go ahead and sit down.
Mr. Corbett, is this true what she's saying? Is this blasting changed the water flow out there?
My understanding, you know, she's right. There's some flooding problems out there. We've had staff look at it. I don't have any knowledge of the spring she's talking about because we don't have any way to really.
Is the flooding been brought on by this rock?
Wait just
removal?
a minute. That's. We're not going to get into a debate here.
Is this flooding been brought on by?
If y'all will go back to a meeting back a few years ago, it was brought up at one of the meetings, just like
Okay.
this.
Let me ask the county engineer, can you look into this?
Yeah, I've made a note here to it. I'll ask.
Okay.
I've got another question for Ms. Dale. Have you had a lot of complaints, legitimate complaints about gravel and rock being brought out on the highway out there from this?
I'm trying to remember back, You know, they don't. Sometimes they call David, and they don't. Sometimes they call us. I can only remember a couple of times where we got calls about mud on the road out there.
But you think the flooding goes back to this rock removal?
My understanding, the flooding was happening before I got here and before this was approved, and there's some other things involved. The thing she's talking about, blocking a stream, may be involved, and it's also the drainage when it was put in may not have been put in correct.
Okay, thank you.
Would you look into this complaint, and report back to us next month? Would you have time to do that?
We will have time to do that. I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
I make a motion to be approved.
We have a motion to be approved. Do we have a second?
If Mr. Corwith will check into it and get back with us next month, and if they got a problem with this situation, then they would straighten their problem out.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Okay? Either vote it up or down.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are we making an amendment to the
It's
original
a
motion?
motion that it be approved in a second. That's it. Okay? But he will look into it and report back to us, but that's not part of the motion. Okay? Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Thane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Okay, it is approved. The next item of business is a request by Stephanie Mitchell, and this is an accessory dwelling. What do you have on that, please?
Application 2013 is a request for special exception approval for an accessory dwelling unit that does not meet the design standards for ADUs for a property located in a residential medium density zone. And the property is located at 4707 Cedar Grove Road. It's a 5.5 acre parcel. And the applicant is hoping to build an addition to provide a separate living quarters for her mother to live in. And the reason that she's having to come before you is that the square footage of the proposed ADU exceeds the 25% maximum of the gross square footage of the house requirement for ADUs, and the fact that there is an entrance that faces a right-of-way to the ADU. So apart from that, we've not received any phone calls. This is a photo of the area, and we posted a sign on the site, surrounding areas. She meets all the other requirements for the accessory dwelling unit. Surrounding area. This is the principal residence that you see now, the garage, zoomed in, and the structure. And she actually supplied us with some elevations of the addition, so you can see what the end product is going to look like. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay. Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you come around, please.
Good evening. My name is Blair Mitchell, and I am Stephanie Mitchell's husband. And basically, we're just looking to provide an on-site living quarters for my mother-in-law, Stephanie's mother, to assist her as she's getting a little bit older, and basically looking at improving the house more than anything. Not really making any drastic changes. Everything's going to kind of fit the area. It's just a little bit bigger than we anticipated.
Any questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on it. Close the public hearing if we have a motion on it.
Move be approved.
Have a motion to be approved.
I'll second it.
Have a second. Joe Machoto. Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Thane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Do we have any other business?
No, sir?
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.